The time for change is now.
If you care about me when I do this,
Or when I do this, you should care about us when we do this. I won't always be an athlete, but I will forever be a Black woman.
you've had my back here.
Now, have my back here. No one should feel unsafe due to the color of their skin.
All lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Join us in the fight to end systemic racism.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Hello, everyone. And it is Thursday night, and it is time for the Ella Johnson Show. I want to thank all of you so much for tuning into the show tonight. We have a very special show tonight because my guest, my beautiful guest, is sitting here, and she's going to share her story tonight. And, you know, domestic violence, I want you guys to know, domestic violence goes unchecked way too often in our communities, in our country. People are suffering in silence. And yes, even some of you watching this broadcast, you have family members who are suffering in silence to domestic violence. And the Ella Johnson Show wants to make sure that we put the word out there so that you don't have to. So we will always bring domestic violence survivors to this show to share their story. Now, one of the reasons I got involved with these domestic violence shows is because, I don't know if you remember, last year, my cousin was killed as a result of domestic violence. And I then at that point committed myself to making sure that we get the word out there so that you can make a plan to get out. So that's what this broadcast is tonight. So I want you guys to come in. I want you to share the broadcast. Tell your friends that the Ella Johnson Show is on and that we're talking about domestic violence. Now, while you guys are doing that, we're going to watch a short video. And when we come back, you will get a chance to meet my beautiful guest, Vernita Howard. And she is going to share her story with us. We'll be right back.
is Vernita Council Howard, and I agreed to be on the Ella Johnson Show to tell my story about domestic violence.
And we're back, guys. Listen, if you are just tuning into the Ella Johnson Show, tonight we're talking about domestic violence. My beautiful guest, Vernita Howard, is joining us tonight because she wants to share her story and how she got out so that we can help other people make a plan to get out as well. Now, Vernita comes to us, but she is the executive vice president and founder of SWAT. That is her 501c3 nonprofit organization. And they are, what is the SWAT? What does that mean? Survivors with a Testimony. I just went blank there for a second. Survivors with a Testimony. And she is the ultimate survivor with a testimony because she founded this organization so that she can help men and women be able to get out and make a plan, because that's what it takes, right, Vernita?
It does.
Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show.
Thank you for having me.
You're so beautiful. I am so glad that you're here. Girl, you survived it. How does that feel, first of all?
It actually feels awesome.
Right.
It's awesome to be able to tell my story and not my family having to relive my story.
Yeah, because, like I said before we went for the video, is my cousin was killed as a result of domestic violence. And so my show is committed to making sure that we bring people on that can help other people make a plan before it's too late. And you were a survivor. You are a survivor. You were a victor. And you're able to share it. So I just want to, first of all, thank you so much for being brave and transparent with us tonight about what happened to you so that it can help other people. So, guys, if you're here and you know somebody that's a victim of domestic violence right now and they're going through some stuff, you need to call them up and say, listen, you need to watch the show tonight, because there's a lady on there who went through it, and she has gone through some of the same things that some of you have gone through, but she wants to share with you what happened, what could have happened, and what almost happened to her. So again, I want to welcome you, Vernita, but I want to start out, and I want to know a little bit more about you. I want my viewers to know, who is Vernita? Tell us who you are. You are very lively. I know that much. You've had me cracking up back here in the studio.
So just a little about who I am. I'm a mother of two beautiful daughters. I'm a wife. I do have my now Boaz. I am an author. I'm a minister. I am an advocate for domestic violence. I am a sister. I have it's six of us, so I have 5 siblings. And when I married my husband, joined in 15 additional. So
15 additional what?
In-laws. So I am
okay.
Yeah. So I have a huge family now.
Nice.
So I'm me. I am someone who's willing to help anyone who's in need. I'm just an all-around person.
Yes, it sounds like it. She mentioned she has her Boaz, but some of us have to go through some bozos first. I'm just gonna put my hand up first. All right. She got her Boaz, but I'm sure she definitely went through some bozos, because we're gonna talk about a couple of them tonight. So right?
Exactly.
We're not putting anybody's name out there, but But anyway, that's good. So let's delve into your story. Now, at 17, you met your abuser. Mm-hmm. Tell me about when you met him and how he was when you first met him.
So 17, I was in high school, and I was working a local restaurant, and I met him. He seemed like the ideal guy. He worked across the street. So introduced them to my parents, and they were okay with it. He was a little older than I was, but my dad was fine with it. And so we had this relationship, and it seemed like everything was just great. And in high school, they take you out to dinner. You go to the movies. You go walking in the park. Things like that. He showed me like some of the things that I seen my dad do with my mom. Um, and so, like anybody else, it's like, oh, okay, this is the ideal guy. He kind of mimics some of my dad, and then it all changes.
It all changes. Now, when he was being nice and everything, because sometimes they do that to keep you from asking other questions. But when he was nice and everything, you didn't notice anything. No red flags, nothing at all. He was just really sweet. Your family liked him. Nothing?
It was definitely red flags, but as women, we try to overlook them. If I would speak to guys that I was in school with, he was already out of school. That was an issue. It would be an argument. And I'm like, well, I go to school with them, you don't want me. They're in my class. So, but that always seemed to be an argument. I'm not an argument.
How long into the relationship did he start acting crazy like that?
3 months.
3 months.
Yes.
Oh
3
wow.
months.
Now he hadn't gotten abusive yet. He started out light.
Yeah.
So now, did you get married before he struck you first, or are we ready to get married now?
Definitely before. So we didn't date long. We was intimate, and I ended up pregnant.
Ooh.
So I was raised in a Christian, home,
Right.
and so with your values and everything, I felt that I needed to be married. Um, so talk to him, this is how I was raised, and these are some of the things that we could consider. And like a month later, after we find out that I'm pregnant, he proposes. Um, I found out I'm pregnant in November. He proposed Christmas. We get married that February.
Okay, so everything happened fast. Now, when you found out
Really
you were
fast.
pregnant, did your parents encourage you guys to get married because of your Christian values?
My dad didn't. My mom was really into our Christian values or whatever. My dad still hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So after speaking with my mom, it was like, okay, and so
But
took it
wait a
to my
minute.
dad.
Did you mention to mom that he was having some jealous tendencies?
No.
You didn't mention any of that. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Carry on.
So she didn't know any of,
Okay.
and to me, being young, I didn't see it as jealous. I was like, ooh, like the normal teen, ooh, he really care about me. He don't
Yeah.
want any. So, uh, until, so now fast forward February, we get married.
Okay.
Um, my dad, when he was walking me down, he was like, we don't have to do this. We could go out the door. And I was like, well,
Now,
no,
why did he
Dad,
say that? Why did he say that?
I'm I'm a daddy's girl, so he never thought anything. Well, I can't say what he thought, but he was like, you don't have to go through this if you don't want to. Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm positive. Um, and so we get married, and I will say to any young lady, if a man don't have anywhere to take you, don't marry him.
Wait a
We get
minute. You guys got married and didn't have anywhere to go?
get married and moved in with my parents.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you not ask, honey, where are we going to stay when we get married?
Well, he was living in a mobile home, and my dad had went through there, and he was like, "You're not living here."
Living in that. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Um. So my dad did have a lot to say about that situation. He was like, no, at least until you graduate. If you guys decide that's where you want to go to, but I can't see my child living there. And my dad had a heart to heart with him, and he was like, oh, okay. And so we moved in with my parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least you had that opportunity. Some people don't. And you were, so they're good. You're married. So you're living in with the parents. Everything is good. Did he contribute to the bills in the house?
My parents gave him one bill to pay, and that was it. So yeah.
So he did
But
contribute. Okay.
mhm.
So that's
And
good.
mhm. He was an awesome, like, even once we moved out, an awesome provider. He just had control and behavior issues, but that also triggered down from he's seen it in his household.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now we're getting to the skinny of everything. This is learned behavior.
Our behavior, yes.
Now, you guys are with your parents. There had to be a first when he started acting up. When was that? Take us to that day.
So my parents had rules, and living in my parents' house on Sunday, you had to go to church.
Okay.
Thursday night, you had to be in Bible study. Sunday after church, after dinner, they had another Bible study. So to live in their household, you had to participate in the Bible studies, the church. We went to church 11 o'clock on Sunday. We was out by 12:30. We went back at 7:30 that night, and then
Were
um,
you at a Baptist church? I'm just saying.
a holiness church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then on Wednesdays, we had something with the youth, so I participated in that. And then on Thursdays, we had Bible study at the church, so we had to participate in that. Um, and he didn't like the rules.
Uh-oh.
In my parents' house, at a certain time, you had to be in. It didn't matter. um, they had a saying: if you can't meet the curfew, don't come back. You know,
Oh,
don't come that
okay.
night. So you would have
Okay.
to come the next day. Not
Right.
unless you was working. But
Okay.
just to hang out, no. So he didn't like the rules, and we moved in with his dad.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's when everything, everything
Now he
changed.
didn't have a plan to get you guys something, at least an apartment, nothing?
So we were supposed to stay until I graduated, which was June, with my parents, and then
Gotcha.
moved into a place.
Okay.
He didn't like the rules. So March, we get married in February. He didn't like all the rules. So March, he was like, "Hey, let's go stay to my dad's. I think that would be better. This, that, and the other. We'll have more freedom. We'll have okay.
What did
I
that do to
wrote
your relationship with your parents, though? Did that cause a rift between you guys?
no.
No? Okay, good.
Mm-mm. I just explained to them how he explained it to me, and my mom's like, "Oh, okay."
Okay.
Um, the door is always open.
Okay.
She and my dad, of course, the door is always open.
Right. So you guys are moved in with dad. How was that going?
Ooh, completely different. Um, so we move in with his dad, and my family and I very close knit family. So we go out, we do a lot of things, but everything be based upon our Christian faith. And so when one of them will come pick me up, because now he's quote unquote working a lot, and his dad would stop me at the door and say, have you called my son? So I wasn't just being controlled by him, also by his dad. If dad had something to do, my younger brother-in-law was there at the time. So if dad had something to do, I was like the in-house babysitter. Um,
Oh,
so have you called my son? I would have to report to him who I'm leaving with, what time I'm leaving, and make sure it was okay with him before I could leave.
Ooh, no. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So how did you feel about that? I mean, obviously you didn't like that.
No, um, I didn't like it at all. When I said something to him, it was like I should be grateful that his dad gave me the opportunity to live in the home, and what he wasn't much. Um, I should be grateful to have transportation, which at this time I didn't have license, so wherever I went, he had to take me, unless my family came. So he felt like I should be grateful that his dad thought enough of me to find out where I was going. So it was almost like being married to two people.
Oh, sounds like it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like it. So now you're experiencing, like I know at this point you're like, God, I want to go back home. But you're
Hmm.
married. So you kind of got
Right.
to follow your husband. So you're torn, I'm sure, at this point.
Hmm.
So when did the trouble really start? I'm sure did it happen here,
Yeah.
Dad's house? Take us to
Dad's
that
house.
day. Yeah.
So we actually leave Dad's house. And so we're riding, and I begin to tell him, like, I don't like how your dad approaches the door. When my family come over, if your dad don't want my family there, just let me know, and I could go to my parents' house when you go to work, and that way, I could still have my bond and my relationship
Right.
with my family.
Right.
And we're riding, and he said, "Well, what did you say to me? So you're ungrateful?" And I'm like, "No." And he was like, "Well, my dad is providing us a car. My dad is providing us somewhere to stay. All he needs is every now and then for you to babysit. And it's not babysitting. That's my little brother. This, that, and the other." He's just into it. And I said, "Well, I have little brothers at home that's a year younger than me. I don't have to babysit him. I don't feel like why I should have to babysit your brother." And by the time I got that out, my head was not into the window of the car.
That's the
Um,
first time he hit you.
the first time he hit me.
What was your initial reaction when you hit by a man that first time? What does it feel like? Other than physical pain, obviously, but what does that feel like?
I actually, because I never seen it, I went into like a state of shock. Like,
I'm sure.
what in the just happened? Um, and he went into, you can't come at me like that. I didn't mean to hit you, but because you're running your mouth, you made me do it. Um, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm apologizing because I felt like I done something to cause him to be angry, when I was just voicing how I felt. Um, and so I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess I should be appreciative, or whatever. But at the same time, I just think that I need to go home. I just need to go, I need to go home. And he was like, well, that is home. And I was like, no, I could go home to my parents' house. He was like, no. He was like, we are married. When we took our vows, you remember what the pastor said? You have to respect me. Um, you should submit to me. You should be submissive. And right now, you're not being submissive. You're being disobedient.
Disobedient. Wow. Oh wow. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Um, did you tell anybody?
No, the
Not
first time,
even.
no.
No.
Um,
You thought
no.
at that point, did you think at that point, well, that's not going to happen again? He was just mad. It's not going to
Once he
happen again.
apologized, I was like, okay, I am carrying his child. I don't want to be a single parent.
So you
I
were
want,
pregnant at the time he hit you?
yes,
Oh,
I
snap.
don't want to be a single parent. I just got to watch what I say and how I say it. And
All right. So what happened with that pregnancy?
so I ended up giving birth and to my daughter. Um, she was a healthy 8 pounds, 4 ounces.
Oh,
The
wow.
light
That
of
is
my world.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So that August I gave birth to her. Um, brought her home and I brought her home back. Actually, I brought her home to my parents' house. So 2 weeks after that, he gets us a place. So
nice.
I'm like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. I still want my family to be together. Um, want to give my daughter what I had. I had a two-parent home. Um, my sister was expecting her first child, so she was married. I wanted everything that I seen my sister and my mom have
Wow.
because those were my those was my role
Role
models.
models. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you had the baby. How were things between the two of you, though, at this point?
Um, it was so, but I was forgiving. So when he presented that he had our own home to go to, I was really excited, to actually have my own home, to be able to decorate and do all those things. So I was
Understandably
excited,
so. Yeah.
excited. And so we move into our home and it gets worse.
Oh, because now he has you all to himself. Nobody's watching.
Mhm.
What was the next thing that happened that just rocked your world?
So at this time when we moved into our home, um, his dad was upset and his dad takes the car. So my parents give us a car to drive. And of course, I still didn't have my license. And so I'm home a lot of the time and he's gone. And so at this time, I was getting public assistance because he didn't make enough. And so, the saying, hey, you can get food stamps, you can get public assistance, you can get this. I done it. Um, we get that. Now I'm waiting my 8 weeks. I have a job interview. I'm able to go to work, and I really want to provide.
Right.
$231 was nothing to provide for a brand new baby.
Right.
I appreciate the wig. I appreciate those things, but still wasn't enough to provide for my child the way that my parents provided for me. So I get a job. I'm working at one food line. He's working at another one. Um, my schedule, he had told me something about our schedule or whatever. It was a conflict. And I was like, well, no problem. I could get someone in my family to take me. And that was a no go because I didn't know exactly who I was going to get. We didn't have a phone. So I was like, okay, when we lived in the country, our home was in the country. So I was like, tomorrow, just take me into the city limits. I'll go to my grandparents' house, figure this thing out so I can get back and forth to work. So that was a no go because he didn't know who was going to be taking me. I couldn't give him a direct time. Training was different when you're working in a grocery, and he should have known because he worked it. But because I wasn't asking the questions, well, how much are you going to make an hour? At this moment, I didn't care. That was just like a peace of mind. I never
Get
had to
away.
worry. Right. I never had
Yeah.
to worry about a babysitter. because my grandparents took my granddaughter. I mean, not my granddaughter, but my daughter. It was like she became their daughter. And so get that worked out. And I'm like, hey, during the week while I work, the baby is going to stay with my grandparents and we'll have her on the weekend. Well, I didn't consult with him. So he acted like everything was good until we got home. And when we got home, it was like I made him seem less than a man. So we got into this big altercation. He punching me, everything. And so
He's
at
punching
this
you how? Is he punching you in the face? And where is he punching you?
everywhere.
Oh,
And so a week go by, I don't report to work. The supervisor reached out to my mom because she knew my mother. And so my mom comes to the house and I wouldn't tell her what was going on, but she knew something wasn't right. That following week, my parents had a phone line put into the home. And I knew that was going to cause a big ruckus because we hadn't said anything about it, or whatever. And so when the people show up from the local phone company to install, he said we didn't call for this. And so when they're saying my dad's name, he was like, "Oh no, this is not his address." And so I had to come out and say, "Well, my parents are having a phone line put in because of the baby being here. Anything could happen, this, that, and the other, And so the guy he went on, he installed. He wouldn't purchase a phone.
so you had
So,
the line, but he wouldn't get a phone. Oh my
so then my
gosh.
parents purchased the phone, and my mama brought it there, and she told him, "I can't get in touch with my daughter for a week or two at a time. She's not answering the door, but she's going to answer the phone." Um, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Like, nothing. He was like, the bills are just a little bit much. I didn't have extra. And so my mom was like, oh, okay, well, she bring this phone line in or whatever. And so he goes out. It was a Friday night. He goes out. He come back in. I'm on the phone talking to my parents or whatever. He has attitude. And I'm like, hey, I'm about to go with my mama, my daddy. He was like, no, we got something to do today.
Ugh.
We hadn't talked about anything. So I was like, well, mom, I tell my parents I'll call them back. And he started beating me, punching me, pushing me through the house, grabbing me by my throat. And when I did get away, this was the first time I called 911. I call 911. He hangs up on them. They still come out. So now they're charging him with interfering with the 911 call.
But what about the abuse? What about the?
I do. I press charges.
Good for you.
But I also go down and drop the charges because he's calling and apologizing and how this can tear our family up and how we're going to put another black brother down and what am I going to do? I can't afford the home by myself. It's going to get better. He's willing to take an anger management class. He just has anger issues. So I guess the guys down, in the detention center tell him what to say. So I was like, okay, finally forgive him again. But the judge wouldn't allow him to come back to the home until after he do the anger management, this, that, and the other. So we go through that process, and I'm sneaking him back in the house.
Oh,
Just sneaking him back in the house. Um, he comes with this sob story about he has nowhere to stay. Nobody's letting him stay. This, that, and the other. He's gonna lose his job because he's not getting sleep. And I'm like, okay, come home. So 2 weeks later, calling the
did
police again.
oh, what
Um,
happened this time? What triggered him this time?
he wanted to go out, and I was like, no, we haven't spent family time. All you've been doing was working. This, and I became all the stupid bitch. I just became just dumb. I was stupid. Um, I just want too much time. But these are all the things that you promised me on the phone when you was calling from jail. Um, the only time that he was loving when it was time to go to court,
Ooh,
because then I could go in there and do what I need to do, to
get him out.
get him out.
Yeah. And so you
So,
did. You did. What did you say to the judge? He's changed. I mean, what did you say?
so I remember the judge telling me, believe everything that you see. It don't change overnight. Um, and so I was like, yeah, but I would just convince the judge, hey, it's gonna get better. He's doing his classes, you know, um, I see a change in him. I truly didn't, but to get him back home, I would just say whatever it took. I remember times hiring an attorney, and when we're sitting in, they'd be like, "Are you sure?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I just want him home. I just want him home." Um, but now that I think back, they really took the money, you know, and helped, but you can tell, like, once they looked at the pictures that the sheriff had taken, it's like, I don't want to do this, but if you're gonna go with it, I have no other choice but to represent you, because he will pay for an attorney for me and an attorney for himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's back in the home.
Mhm.
Did things get better a little bit?
No.
So what happened next?
So, fast forward, things are constantly getting worse. Constantly calling the police. They're constantly coming in and out. In the midst of this, we purchased a new home, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to get a little bit better. This home is a little bit cheaper. It's newer, but it's cheaper. And now this is our, something that we're working hard to pay for. Um, he has to see the bright side of everything. And I'm still in my mind trying to. What kept me going was I want to give my daughter what I had.
That's right. I can
Um,
understand that.
I just don't want her to be in a single parent home. Let me take what I can just to so she'll understand. You know, uh,
But it
there's
was a
still love.
great sacrifice for Anita.
It
What
was.
was going on with you emotionally? Like, how were you holding it together?
I won't. Um, I will isolate myself, and he would isolate me as well. So when I was going through, people couldn't really see it. You know what I mean? Um, when my relationship with my parents and my sister and my brothers are really close, there will be weeks that I will go without talking to them, because I know if um they could hear it in my voice because I'm a very emotional person. So I didn't want them to feel the pain that I was feeling. But I wanted to give my daughter what I had. So with that, it was sacrificing a lot for me emotionally. Yeah.
Now you gave when you gave us your review, you told me that he would take sex from you.
Yeah.
Can you talk
Um,
about that?
sure. Um, Even after the abuse, I would have to have sex with him. He was the type to use our when we done our marital counseling, he would use that. Well, the pastor said that you were supposed to satisfy me. The pastor said this. The pastor said that. You supposed to submit to me. And so even after you beat me, I'm supposed to have sex with
He would expect sex after a beating.
you.
And would you give it to him?
Sometimes I really didn't have a choice.
And what do you mean by that?
It's not that I didn't have a choice, but you can say it was right because he was going to take it anyway.
Would you tell him, stop, I don't want this, you're hurting me? I mean, did you?
A lot of times I would just be quiet. Just I didn't want to experience what I was, you know, just go ahead and get it over with.
Wow. Now, at some point, you got pregnant again, though.
Yeah, I get pregnant with my son. Um, get pregnant with my son, and this time, when he beat me, I called the police and I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. Or whatever. I was in the hospital a lot. I was going back and forth to the hospital. I just prayed that God would just take me away because I was tired.
Now,
During
why were
this
you
time
going back and forth to the hospital? For what?
for the beatings, but he would always say that if I would tell what was going on, if I say that he hit me, um, different things like that, what the lies that he would tell. And so he had me really scared. Um, so now I finally call the police. I go through with the court. He gets on probation. Um, I'm pregnant. He's on probation. He's not supposed to be around me. I'm not supposed to be around him. I'm just
Okay.
tired. Um, go before the judge, and his attorney asked for anger management, another class, substance abuse class. And I'm like, well, what is that? Because at the time, and he was like, oh, I only do it when I drink, or when I get angry when I drink. So I'm like, okay. And they was like, well, do you agree with it? I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. If this is going to help him to be a better father for my daughter, and possibly the child that we have on the way, um, let's try it. He does not help. So 96, December 1996 changed my life forever. He wanted to go to a strip club with his friends, and I needed that support at home. I already had a child. I'm pregnant. He beats me. My mom come the next day, and my dad was sending us to go shopping. And I kept telling her, I was like, Mom, I'm in excruciating pain. She said, I'm not going to leave you. Just not going to leave you here. We take my daughter to my grandparents' house, and I'm in pain, but the whole time I'm in labor.
Wait, how many months are you?
7.
Oh,
So we go to, and we had a restaurant at the time, and so Mom, I just gotta use the bathroom. She was like, no, 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 because of the pain that you're in, I'm gonna take you to the emergency room. And so when she went in one door, I went in the other because I had keys. I went in and gave birth to my son, who was deceased,
he was born dead?
stillborn.
Oh,
So my mom calls the ambulance. I'm screaming. She comes in the restroom where I am, and I'm just holding my son, screaming. Um, Ambulance come, and I never forget the me and EMT got into it because they was like, "This is a spontaneous abortion," and I did not understand what they were saying, but they knew from the bruises and everything that they had seen on me that it was more to this than just me giving birth to my son. And
did
so
you have visible bruises at the time? You did. Wow.
my body was covered.
Ugh.
So when we get in, um, an officer come in and question me, and I was like, "No, I'm fine." And he said, "Well, we know that it's history of domestic violence in the home." They sent a social worker in, and I'm still like, because I'm really embarrassed now. All these people are coming in to question me. I'm trying to get my mind together with losing my child.
Right.
Now I got all these people coming to question me. But what really topped it was when I gave birth and my mom finally got in touch with him and he came back to where we were. And before everybody started coming in or whatever, he said, if you tell anybody what happened last night, I will say that you try to kill yourself. Me not knowing and understanding, he said, and I'll take our daughter away from you. If anybody know me, they know I love my babies. So now
Right.
you're threatening to take my child. You make more than I do. So in my mind, I'm going to lose one that I probably won't be able to see anymore. And I've already lost one. I can't lose both of my babies within the same amount of time.
Right.
So instead of him consoling me, he leaves. I got all this going on in my head. I'm questioning. They ask me questions. I just want everybody to just leave me alone. And my mom said, well, he got to my mom didn't understand what was going on. She was like, well, he left. He got to go get himself together.
But at this point, did mom see the bruises on you?
When the nurse came back in, when my mom would come in, I would cover.
Okay.
You know, the nurse came back in talking. And my mama done a 360. She said, well, she's catching the conversation. And I'm trying to tell the nurse, wait, let my mom leave out. But she's coming in to let me know who's about to come in, why they about to come in. And my mom's just standing there.
So this is how your mother found out that you were being beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That was intervention. That was divine intervention right there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So what did she say to you?
After everybody came out, she said, is there anything that you need to tell me? And at this time, when she was looking at me, I was like, no, because I don't want you to get in trouble. And my mama did. My mama was my ride or die. And when she was asking and that lip would twitch, you knew that she was up to
She
something.
was up to something.
Yes. So I was like, no, mom, just let them handle it. She said, all right, all right. But she won't feel it. So she said, I'm going to call your dad and let him know what's going on. And my world, to me, fell apart because, again, I'm a daddy's girl. And we were so close. Now I felt like I had kept a secret
Right.
from him that could possibly cost us our relationship.
Right.
So I'm begging her, like, don't say anything, please. And she was like, no, he needs to know. And I'm like, he's going to look at me. She was like, he needs to know. I said, well, mom, I don't want my dad to get in trouble either. Oh, he ain't. We got this. I'm like scared now, really scared. But my mom said, so where's our car at? I said, it's at the house. I guess I don't know how he got here. She said, okay. Um, they go to the home. They take their vehicle and told him the only way he could drive it was when if I allowed him to come back to the house when it was something dealing with us, with me and my daughter.
Right.
But they won't feel in it. So um, get everything together to have a graveside for my son. So we do that, and he comes up. Um, we separate, and this time we stay separated for about 6 months.
So he did come to the graveside service.
Hmm.
Did he console you? What did he say? Did he
Oh
grieve? What happened?
no, my parents wouldn't let him close to me.
Okay.
No, they. My parents have this thing. It's two sides. It's three sides to a story. My side, his side, and the truth.
That's true. Right.
And so, my dad made a statement, and he said, if I was going to take him back, um, they had to be fair around. They just had to be fair to allow him to get that um, because I didn't press charges.
Did they ask you about that? Why did you? So at this point, after you've lost your son, you still didn't want to press charges against him. Why not?
I was, my head was everywhere.
Yeah, I
Um,
can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. But let
you,
me ask you, Vernita. I mean, wow, you've said so much.
mhm.
And all I'm thinking about as you're talking is I'm like, how did you process all of this? Like, how did you deal? How did you wake up the next morning, put one foot in front of the other? How did you do that?
I really didn't. After I lost my son, I shut down for 21 years.
21 years.
Hmm.
When you say shut down, what do you mean?
So, my son' date of birth would have been December the 23rd. I would walk around like everything was normal. I was okay, but I didn't start getting any counseling. I didn't start getting anything to 21 years when I found out that my daughter was pregnant with my first grandson. And I just felt like God was giving me back what was taken away from me.
Wow. Now, I want to take you back because you mentioned in your story that you gave my show, you said that you tried to leave. I want you to talk to us about that day when you guys got in an argument and you tried to leave the house and what happened.
So after my son, and this is a part after my son, when I do end up taking him back, it gets crazy. Um, it this was one of the worst. So I take off. Now I have license, so I leave, and I'm still tired, and I lost the son. I know my daughter is gonna be well taken care of, and so I pull out in front of an 18 wheeler. And all I hear is the jet brakes. Like this guy is doing everything he can to stop.
Did you try to do that?
I purposely done it. I seen him
Oh,
coming. I just wanted to die. Um, just wanted to die. Just wanted to end it. I was tired.
I know. I know.
I was tired of pretending to be happy when I'm tore up. I was tired of trying to make this person love me that obviously didn't. I was just tired. And I just felt like at this point, should have been better off without me. Because what I was doing wasn't just hurting her. I mean, it wasn't just hurting me, but I felt like it was hurting her as well.
Right.
Um, when he got out, and I was angry with him because he didn't allow. And when this guy, he was huge, but when he got out of this 18-wheeler, he's walking to my car. He's just cursing and fussing, and I'm crying. And he see this is the time that he's beginning to start hitting me in my face. So he see the abuse, and when he got and he looked, and the only thing I could ask him is why? Why did you stop?
Oh, wow.
He calls 911. At this moment, he really feels like something is, I need help. And they go arrest him. I didn't even have to give an address because they knew who
Yeah.
he was. Didn't have to give a description. That's how many times they have been out to our home. But I go to the hospital. They check me out. They send me home, and I end up going to live with my parents. This was the first time that they actually seen all the bruises and everything. Um, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to go back. Um, my dad was like, you're gonna go through. Well, we just gotta do this. Like you gotta stand your ground. Um, so this time he gets put on probation, supervised probation. Um, I get my restraining warrant, my protection order, um, just about everything that I needed. Stay away from him. I do really good. And then I meet another guy.
Oh,
But this one treated me like a queen. And we're still friends today. He just, he came in. But during this time, my ex gets out. He steals the tags off this guy's car. He found out where I live. He steals the tags off the car. So we're driving. We get stopped by the police. And because of all the abuse, I memorized the license tag. I was like, oh, okay, you know. Um, and so they was like, ma'am, do you know there's no tags on the car? I was like, oh no, there was tags up there when I laid down last night. Um,
right.
so my ex had stole the tags off. Um, I was at the house one day and um I leave and go to work and my cousin calls and she was like, V, you didn't pay the light bill? I was like, yeah. I gave it to, my damn boyfriend. I was like, ooh, please tell me this joker didn't take my money, you know, and not pay my bill. So I called him at work and I said, hey, they cut my lights off. What's going on? He was like, no, I got the receipt. I paid the light bill. So I called the local utility company, and it was like the utility bill was paid. I said, well, there's no utilities in my home,
He
you know.
cut the lights. Oh my
So
God.
he had took the meter out
Oh,
of the utility box. So we went through that, and they had to come out there, put a utility box in. He tried to run me off the road, because now he got this stuff on his record, and I'm just making it hard for him. So I'm like, look, this is a bit much. Um, at this time, we had moved back into the home, of course, because they had arrested him. So I had rights to the home, um, but I didn't realize all that was going to come behind it.
so you
Because
were
now,
living in that home with the new guy, in your home with the new guy.
well, he had his own place and I had mine, but we
Right,
were dating, we were intertwined.
right.
So yeah, um, and then all this stuff. We go out one night, we go to the club. I haven't always been saved, so for those who are viewing, I'm an open book. We go to the club. My cousin rides with me. Um, Good thing the guy that I was seeing at the time drove because my husband comes and steal the car.
He's still your husband at this point?
Yeah, we were still married at this point. We
Okay.
hadn't went through.
Divorced yet?
Mhm. So he comes, he takes the car. Nothing I could do because his name is on the car as well. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing to him next week that he done to me this week.
Right.
So I don't go in the club. Somebody lets me know that he's at the club, and me and my cousin go, and we steal the car, steal the car back. Um, it was a lot. Um, the guy that I was seeing, he was like, "Look, y'all got a lot going on." I mean, and he was an awesome guy, but because of all the baggage and the stuff that my ex was doing, he was like, I can't do this. This is crazy. Um,
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how was he, taking all of this in? What was going on? That's a lot to have to deal with. Yeah. Did he
yeah,
leave
yeah, he ended up leaving, but by the time he leave, I'm pregnant
with his child?
with his child.
Oh, which is a blessing, I
Yeah,
mean, a baby's a
mhm,
blessing no matter what.
yeah. So I'm pregnant with his child, but of course, with all the drama with me and my ex, um, he felt like this guy to be doing all this stuff, you still got to be dealing with him. And so the day that I give birth to my third child, which is my second daughter, um, my husband shows up. I'm going through like a blood transfusion and all of this stuff. This was a hard pregnancy, and he signs her when they come in. He signs her birth certificate.
But he's not the dad. How did he do that?
Because in the state that we live in, we were still legally married. So it's still technically
Oh,
legally his child. And
oh.
he knew.
Wow. So how did the real dad feel when he found this out? And why wasn't he there?
We had separated. Like I said, it was so much going on. Um, when I went in labor, I was having complications.
Right.
Um, and by the time my mom showed up, my ex had showed up. And they really don't, she was in there, but he had more say so than she did because we were still legally married.
Of course. So he signs the birth certificate. You leave the hospital. Then what?
Leave the hospital, I still go my own separate way. And then he was like, hey, I know this is not my child, but I want to provide. I've changed. I've taken all these classes. I just, I'm ready to settle down and be a family man. I'm ready to give you what your dad is giving your mom. And that right there
Got
won
you
my
hooked
heart.
again.
Yeah,
Did you go back to him?
I did.
Okay.
And went back to him, and it was hell on wheels,
Was it even worse than before?
even worse. And after that, I just said, enough is enough. I cannot do this anymore. And this time when I walked, I was done. Like, it was no looking back. It was no change of heart. And it was at a point where I hated him.
Now, when he continued beating you. He continued forcing sex with you. He continued. Did he do this in front of the children?
No. Mm-mm.
So he would do it in the bedroom.
Like the children, will be down. We'll put the children down, and then, it was.
But how involved did your parents get? Because it seems like they really couldn't do anything, because even if they wanted to and you were going back and you were just like dropping all the charges, there was nothing they could do anyway, short of just
So
beating him.
right. So this last time, right before this was it. My mom, my mom came over, and they had given him a vehicle to drive, and he got brave enough to hit me in front of my mama. My mama took candles. I had candlestick holders, that she had given me, the old antique one,
Right.
and so she kindly told him. She said, "Listen, if y'all having a disagreement, just wait till I leave." She forewarned him. He turns around and pops me. When he popped me, she popped him, bust his head open, tore my window out. And he turned around as if he was going to hit her, and she grabbed the other candlestick holder. She said, "We could play baseball in here, or you could kindly walk out. Your choice. Which one?" So he calls the police.
Ooh.
He calls the police. My mom calls my dad. She was like, "Come get us," because I didn't hit this boy in the back of the head. And so my dad comes up. My dad is real laid back. He was like, "Why'd you do that?" She said, "Because he hit her in front of me, and that's my child. I'm going to protect what I birthed." And um, sheriff shows up. They was like, "What now? Somebody's going to jail again, because we done been out here several times." So when they come up, he telling them everything. And so me and my mom in the car, I'm like, "Mom, just, I don't know what to say." She said, "Well, you let me do the talking." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "You ain't dropping no charges this time."
All right.
I said, "Yes, ma'am." And so when the officer came up, he said, "Who hit him in the back of the head?" We both like, "I don't know." I'm following my mama's lead. I don't know. And he looks at my mom. He said, "It had to be you, because there's blood dripping down this handle." And so she said, "Officer, let me go ahead and tell you. He hit my daughter in front of me." She said, "Now, I forewarned him." She said, so she went through the story. She told him. And he said, "He done what?" She said, "He hit my daughter in front of me." She said, "So I took the closest thing to me, and I hit him back." And he was like, "I've been out here several times." He said, "But what I'm about to do is I'm about to write this up. I'm going to arrest him, but I'm going to write this up so he can't press charges against you."
Okay.
And he said, "I just need y'all to follow me to the magistrate's office." My dad said, "No problem." And that's what he done. Um, but he did look at me. And it was another officer that came up. And he looked at me that day. He said, "Listen, I want to give you these pamphlets. He said, I really want you to go through with it. I was like, oh, y'all done gave me this pamphlet several times. He said, if you don't do anything but just call the number so you can get help, so you can understand what you're going through.
Exactly.
And so I was like, okay. So they knew I wasn't going to call. So the lady ended up calling me. And I'm like, what in the world? So my mom gives all the information. Oh yeah, you can call her because she's going to be with us. Call this number right here. I'm like, Mom. So they did. I went through with it. And that was it. That was just it. I couldn't no more. I couldn't. I remember when the lady talked to me, she said, if you go back, you're gonna die.
Sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes them being that blunt and candid about what's going on. Did that when you heard that? Did you believe her?
Yeah. Even though I done things because I said that I wanted to die, I truly didn't want to die.
Of course not. Of
I
course not.
wanted, now I don't have just one child, I have two,
Right.
at this time. I
You just
already have,
wanted help. That's
yeah,
what you wanted. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And so after that, I didn't go back. Um,
Yay.
he threatened me. He was at DSS to my home, saying that I was drinking, I was doing drugs. Never done drugs a day in my life. But with all that he was taking me through, I would turn up on some alcohol real quick, but not when my children was around.
Right.
Um, my family was pretty huge, so they was constantly all over helping me out.
So
And
once you
so
finally opened up, you had the support that you really needed.
yeah,
So you could have opened up, and I mean that's going back, but if you had opened up a lot sooner, you know.
yeah.
But you know what stopped that truck? I want to go back to that because my mind is still on that truck. You know that truck driver had a little help, honey.
hmm It was the
You
grace
know there
of
were some
God.
angels on those brakes, baby.
Yes,
And aren't
and
you glad? Aren't
I
you
am.
glad? Yeah.
I am.
What is it that because there are people watching this broadcast that could be right where you were that night you got in that car. Because that night you got in that car, you were ready to meet your maker. What would you say to a woman that is feeling what you did that night?
Don't allow anyone to make a decision about your life based on their actions. And when I say that is, I wanted to die because of his actions towards me. You're valuable. Your worth means so much more. If they don't value you, I'm not going to tell you to just walk out, but I will tell you to develop a safety plan. Get
Right.
things in place so when you do leave, you don't have to keep going back. Um, I do realize that every time that I went back, I had shortened my life. So if you're going through, find you somebody. Your support system is there, but because you feel ashamed, you feel the guilt, and you feel that it's your fault, what you're going through is never your fault. And I can promise you, you will never be alone. There is someone that's willing to help. There is someone that's willing to talk to you. There's someone willing to just say, look, I got your back. I
Right.
had that. I had a really tight support system that I chose not to use because of feeling ashamed, feeling guilty, but it wasn't my fault.
Now, at this time when you were going through everything, did you ever like reach out to any pastors? I mean, because it sounds like you really went through this by yourself. Like, was there ever anyone other than that night in the hospital when your mom saw those bruises? Was there anyone that you just you didn't have a girlfriend, friends, nobody that you could talk to?
I did, but I did go to a pastor, and I didn't go to my pastor that I had at the time. I went to a different pastor,
Okay.
and because I was ashamed, and my church had started hearing some of the things that was going on with me. I was looking for another church, because I was ashamed. But
Right.
I went to this pastor, I confided in him, and I told him everything that was going on and um, how I felt like God had punished me. Those was my words to him. And maybe 2 weeks later, a month later, when I go to the church, he preached my what was supposed to be confidential. He was preaching about it.
He didn't say your name though.
No, but I knew, um, you know,
So that even it's so crazy because that further added to your shame. So what happened? Did you leave the church?
I never joined that church. um,
So you were out of there before you even got
yeah,
started. I hear you. How
yeah.
did that? How did that? How did you feel towards God after that, though?
My faith was tight. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like he won't save. Um, I wasn't saved like I needed to be, but I knew who God was.
Right, right.
Um, and so I questioned God a lot. Why me? Why did you allow this to happen to me? You knew what I wanted. You knew the only thing that I wanted was to give my children what my parents gave me. So why did you allow me to go through this? Like, why?
Did you get an answer?
Yep. My answer is what he has me doing now, advocating for
Amen.
others. Um, and not only that, like I said, it took me 21 years to come out to tell my story. Um, but I lost my son in the process, but I gained three grandsons. So I have my Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. God has given me double, triple what was taken away from me.
Now, did you ever deal with the loss of your son? I mean, we kind of glossed over that conversation, but did you deal with it? Because I mean, you were going through a lot of stuff.
I did not deal with it then. I waited until my daughter got pregnant with my grandson, and I was afraid. Like anytime she would call me and say, "Mom, I got to go to the hospital," because she went through an abusive situation with the father of this child. And so I was like, God, now you're going to take my grandbaby. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I was afraid. And I thank God for my husband that I have now because anybody else, I would have drove them crazy. And so he said, you need to deal with losing your son, the grief of your son. He said, I can't, I don't know how to help you. And so my husband is a man of very few words. So when he says something, you listen. So I started 5 years ago getting counseling. I fired over 40, um, 40 people because we wasn't connecting. They won't helping me with my healing process. Um,
Wait a minute,
but
you had like 40 different counselors and you fired all of them? What were they doing
nothing.
that you didn't like?
We just won't vibe, and I didn't have that connection to actually open up.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
And I will say to anybody, it's like an interview. If you don't get that vibe where your healing is gonna start, it's okay. It's your money. Start over. Find another one.
Right.
I couldn't find one in the beginning in my hometown. Um, the one I have now, she's amazing. But I remember going to sit to see her, and I was sitting there doing her like I was doing the rest of them, and a lot of it wasn't all them. Some of it was me because
I
I
was going to
wasn't
ask
really,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't really ready to
Right.
start my healing process.
Right.
But this lady,
She
she
checked
told
you,
me,
didn't she?
yeah, she did. She said, "Listen, only one or two things are gonna happen. You come here for a purpose. I'm here. She said, I can't help you if you don't open up. She said, if you want healing, is because that's what you said on this paper. You you want to get to the core of the issue. Now, for me, you sitting here, I don't know you, you don't know me. The core of the issue right now is you. Until you decide to open up and let me know where I can help you, I can't do anything else for you. But just read this piece of paper. And if everything is not here, what do you want me to do? She said, but you more than welcome to sit here. Because when you walk out, I'm going to get paid.
She went there.
And
Wow,
so,
but it was something about that that kind of broke you, and
yeah.
you were able to open up to her.
Mhm.
And so, what is it that she said that finally made it click for you?
I was the core of the issue. I was the problem. Um,
How did that feel hearing that, though?
I was like,
Did it
Lord,
kill?
thank you. It did. It took a lot on the inside. So,
Yeah,
Lord,
I'm
thank you
sure.
for being saved because I want to tell this lady something. But in reality, when I looked in the mirror, she has this mirror in her in the where you talk to her at. And so she said, look in there. Who's her? Who do you see? And all I seen was me. So how can she help me if I don't open up? So from that
Wow.
day on, I was able to open up. She said, listen, I'm not about giving you medications. Uh, we don't need zombies. We need people healed. Medications is just,
Amen.
it's just a temporary regimen. No, I need you to open up so I can help you. Nobody had never talked to me like that. They would just sit there with that little book and wait.
And wait until you
They'll
finally.
wait, they'll wait, and I'll wait. And they'll be like, well, um, they'll do their little spiel about, abuse and, when I'm ready.
You're paying them to tell you something you already know.
Right.
Yeah.
I could have read that in a book.
So,
The
any
internet.
regrets? Any regrets? If you could go back to that 17-year-old girl, what would you say to that 17-year-old Vernita?
Be patient. Um, be patient. I don't regret my children, none of them at all. But I would tell Vernita to be patient. Be patient. Remain a child. Uh, I wouldn't have rushed into adulthood. There's bills. There's all that stuff that I really wasn't ready for. She used to take
Right.
my money, spend it doing what I wanted to do. Um, and it's okay to be humble and listen to your parents' rules. When I was under their rules and they was giving me the guidance that I truly needed. You know, um, so just realize that they're not hard on you because they don't care. They're guiding
Amen.
you because they want you to be successful. They want you to be better than who they are. Um, they gave me the love. They gave me everything. So I would never rush to be out of that again.
Wow. So, how did you meet your current husband? How did you guys meet?
Oh, so
She
my
finally got her Boaz. She
yeah,
got rid of the bozos, though. Yeah.
yeah, I went through a couple of them, but
Yes, she did.
the way I met my husband was my now husband. So he said I always say now so people understand. Uh, my sister-in-law and my brother, my baby brother, and his baby sister um, was together, and they have children together, and that's how I met them through my brother. I met him through
Aw.
my brother. Yeah. So,
And he treats you like a queen. Never. Do you have moments where you just kind of go back and you just relive some of that stuff and you have a moment for a moment?
well, with my now husband, one of the things that with him, I remember when we first started dating, because I was used to people arguing and, being very vocal and ugly. Um, his thing was you don't scream. You don't have to scream to get your point across.
Right.
So he's not a art. He would leave. And at this time, like, I'm like, did he really just leave? Like, I'm trying to get a point across. He ain't listen. He said, listen, I'm not going to argue with you. As adults, we can sit and have a conversation. We don't have to agree,
I
but
like
there's a
him.
way to have
Nice.
a conversation. And
Yes.
so that's my adjustment now. I'm not going to argue with you. We're adults. It's a way to have a conversation. And that's how
Oh,
we do. If he don't agree with something, he don't like it, he'll let you know. But he's not gonna drag the situation on.
wow.
He'll tell you that.
So, what did you learn through all of this?
From the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that it's not my fault. I learned that
Good.
I am valuable.
Good.
I learned my self-worth.
Good.
And I learned that I am beautiful. I
Yes.
learned I don't have to argue with anyone. I can agree to disagree or disagree to agree. But your actions don't determine who I am. In other words, you respect me, I'm going to respect you. You keep your hands to yourself, I'm going to keep my hands to myself. We don't agree, we could talk about it. But nothing's going to get resolved if you're both angry at the same time. And that's what I love about me and my husband. If we're angry, he'll be like, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Girl, you got yourself a real man. Yes. I love it. So, I mean, when you think about this other Bozo number one, because we don't want to say his name, but when you think about him, I mean, do you hate him?
Um, I don't hate him. I just dislike his ways. And I had September 6th of last year was my first time being back around him in all those years. Um, and that was a test for me. And it was God's way of saying, listen, I'm going to show you who you are and allow you to be okay, to know that I got you. So when he came around to the baby's party, it was like I I wanted to back out, honestly, because I didn't know how I was going to be. So some of my friends came because they knew. And when he came up, it was like, okay, I seen him. Let me take this deep breath. So I took a deep breath and I was like, God, I really need you to intervene because if he says something, I don't want to ruin my grandbaby's party.
Right.
Um, he came up, he spoke, hey, how you doing? And I was at peace.
Oh,
So with that, and I'm able to be at peace because I was able to do all my regimens, my techniques that a therapist has taught me that when you're not feeling comfortable, what to do. But honestly, I felt at peace. And that was one of the first times in over 20 years that I could ever be
wow.
around him and feel at peace. So
Wow.
I
Now,
don't
where are
hate
all
him.
these players? Where are all these players now? Where is he now?
Somewhere married,
Oh,
you
he's
know.
married.
Yeah.
What about the second guy? Does he ever check on his child?
Oh yeah, they have an awesome relationship.
Okay,
He's
that's
married.
good.
He's also married. His wife and him are awesome with my
Oh,
youngest daughter. They are just amazing. So yeah, he's awesome with his daughter. So
so we're going to talk about Bozo number one. If you were watching this broadcast tonight and you had to look in your camera and say something to him, because we're going to leave it right here on the altar, girl, what would you say to him to be done with it once and
I,
for all?
I actually forgive you for all that you've done.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's big because forgiveness is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad you said that because there are people watching this broadcast who think that it has been so horrible that what's happened to them, there's no way they can forgive. Like, no, baby, I can't forgive. This man caused me to lose my child. And he did. He caused you to lose your son. Now, I don't want to just refer to him as your son. What is his name?
Christopher.
Well, this show is dedicated to you, Christopher, because he's with you. He's always looking out for you. So we're dedicating this broadcast of the Ella Johnson Show to Christopher. You know, I mean, it seems like I don't know what it's like to lose a child, but you know, I do know this. I do know that God was in it, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have SWAT today.
Yeah.
You know, survivors with a testimony. You are a survivor with a testimony. Tell us about your organization.
So, Survivors with a Testimony was started in December of 2020. Prior to that, I worked under the name Breaking the Silence Breaking the Silence on Domestic Violence. God told me to change it to SWAT, which is Survivors with a Testimony. I was obedient. January, we started out, we done all our paperwork. April the 8th, we became a 501c3.
Yay.
So the mission of the organization is to educate men, women, and children who have encountered domestic violence or sexual assault to educate them on the different forms: physical, sexual, mental, psychological, um, any form of abuse that you can encounter. I believe prevention is the key. I also believe that if you start at the head, you know, men supposed to be the head of the household. So if you educate the men, they'll give the information to their children, to their wives, um, and we can help with the prevention. A lot of times, advocating, I've learned that a lot of people really didn't realize what they was doing was abusive. They just mimic what they've seen for years, and they thought it was okay. But in reality, it's not. There's only two that can cause you to be charged, and that's the sexual and the physical. There's no other help for someone who is going through spiritual abuse, who's going through emotional abuse. There's no help for them. And so I didn't want to leave that out.
Good
Um,
job.
I wanted them to know that they have a safe place to come to if it's just a talk. Um, if they need someone to pray with them. When they call that line and they say, look, I don't want to tell what's going on. I just need prayer. We're gonna pray with you. Um, if they call and they say, I need to get out. My first question is, where are you? Are you able to talk? My team is trained. And the thing is, we have been running it as a 501c3 before we got the paperwork. So,
Yes.
um, we didn't come to play. We came to help.
Amen.
A lot of my team are survivors. We have some that has never been through a form of abuse, but they see the need, they see the call, and
Absolutely.
they work to make sure that people are safe. They know my story. They know the other people's stories that's on the team. But we don't want anybody to suffer like we did. So
Wow.
that's why SWAT is important. We're survivors with a testimony because we have a testimony. And the Bible also tells us your testimony is your delight, meaning tell it wherever you go. Your test was your testimony, your message, your message. Tell it. Silence, just keep it going. We're not going to be silent. We're going to tell
Girl, now I see why those breaks worked that night.
it.
Honey, I think that was, I get chills on my arm over here. That was powerful because you know what? You are helping people. How can people find you?
So on all social media, we're SWAT Inc. 2020. Um, our website is survivorswithatestimony.org. That gives you all the information about us. Every Tuesday night, we do a survival story. On Facebook, it goes via Facebook and YouTube. So SWAT Inc. 2020, you can find us all over social media.
Wow, I was trying to type in your website there. Um,
It's survivorswithatestimony.org.
testimony.org. Okay, survivorswithatestimony.org. Now, can you help people from all over the country? If they are in a situation, can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to us. We are networked with other organizations. So it's not about what organization help. It's about being able to get you the help in the city or the state that you're in,
Okay.
because they are more prone to the laws, of that state than we are. But we will stay interacting to make sure whoever it is safe.
Now, I think it's good, and I know it was very difficult, and you did such an amazing job tonight being transparent and sharing your story. But the thing that is so key here that I don't want people to miss is that you're not alone when you're sitting there and you feel like you want to die. Vernita did, and so many hundreds of women did, and some of them did die, and some people were killed. But this is about those who are surviving and those who want to survive this. Because if you want to survive domestic violence, you have to make a plan to get out. Now, we're not saying you need to go in there and tell your husband, I'm out. I just watched the Ella Johnson show and I am out of here. Because I don't want them to come at me for, doing that kind of stuff. But what I am saying to you, if you are in a domestic violence situation, if you know someone who is in a domestic violence situation, please reach out to the number that we have scrolling here on the bottom, 1-800-799-SAFE. That's a good place to start because you got to tell somebody. Because in Vernita's story and so many stories of the women who have sat on this show with me, they all said the same thing. They were silent. And so many people that are out there right now that are suffering in silence. Doesn't have to be that way. But Vernita, I have to be honest with some of the people that I've seen come on the show. One of the reasons that a lot of people stay silent is because they go to the police. The guy gets out. I had a mother who was on this show that her daughter finally made the decision to get out. And the guy went back to the house after he was let out on it was some kind of code. I can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of thing where he was able to get out. He just got out, no charges or anything. He went back to the house. She was 21 years old, and he stabbed her in the stomach 20 times because she was pregnant and he didn't want anyone else to raise his child. But she made a decision to get out, but they let him out. So what is out there for people? What can we say to people to encourage them to do it anyway, even if they live in that fear of the guy getting out and coming back and killing them?
Okay, so a lot of laws are set up where they only stay in 24 to 48 hours, to be honest. But don't be, don't wait. Sometimes you have to escape. You have to live your life completely different than what you were used to doing. One of the things we will normally do is go back to where we feel comfortable at. Sometimes you have to leave everything, everything. I will say to anyone that thinking about leaving, get all your paperwork together, develop a safety plan. Um, don't ever go and tell your abuser that you're leaving, because 9 out of 10 you won't make it out. I wish that every time that I do an interview, I could say as soon as you leave, it's all over with. A lot of times that's when it gets worse.
Yeah. And that's being
Um,
real. That's true.
um, the now is so much more out there than when I was going through, because now we have the cyber what is it, cyber stalking, and all of these different things, the internet. So I'll say to you, if you're planning on leaving, begin to come off social media is one of the key things. A lot of people don't understand Snapchat takes directly to your address wherever you are. So I share this information because I want people to understand. People think, oh, well, I got Snapchat, I can still text. Turn your location off on your phone. Um, but a lot of times you just have to start over. Get a burner phone. Get your stuff in place. Now, with most domestic violence protection orders, unless it's really violent in the beginning, they only hold them 24 to 48 hours, depending on the nature that's reported. So, and that's hard,
It is.
unless,
Especially when they're depending on this man to keep the lights on. They're depending on this man to keep the food in the refrigerator. So you're saying, I need you to leave, even if you leave with nothing but the shirt on your back.
even if you leave with nothing but a shirt on your back. Now, I will say this, financial loss when it comes to the children. You can leave and go across the country if you want to. But in some states, if there are children, even in an abusive situation, if you cross that state line with that child, you could be hit with kidnapping. So make sure you know your laws before you listen to Joe Blow and everybody tell you what to do. Make sure it's something sound that you have the okay legally to take those children. That's why I say to anybody, develop a safety plan, start putting money to the side, because you're going to have some fees. The sad thing is, our fees will outweigh their fees. They just trying to get an attorney just to get off. You know what I mean? But we also have legal fees, especially if we have children, where we have to protect our children. We have to protect ourselves. And I'm going to say this, don't be ashamed to go to a shelter. That was one of my fears, how people going to look at me. Listen, if I could have went to a shelter and been okay and carry my son, I would have been okay with that. Don't allow, again, guilt or shame to keep you there. Don't allow finances to keep you there. That's emotional abuse as well. Um, that's why with SWAT, we talk about all of it. We educate on it, because I want people to understand. I so many times I hear women say, "Oh, well, he didn't hit me." Men sit around talk. Man, she just controlling the finances. I can't even spend my own money, and they think it's healthy. It's not. So be educated, develop a safety plan, and find you somewhere to go. Don't go to Susie's house because that's your best friend. He gonna
That's the first
cry.
place he's gonna look.
He gonna go there. Sometimes you have to get, as the military say, you got to get AWOL. You know, if your
And don't
parents,
put it on social
and
media.
don't put it on
Crying
social
out
media.
loud.
Whew, yes. Sometimes you just have to tell your mom or tell your dad, whoever's not afraid of him, and just go. Or now, let me rephrase this because it ain't always just him. Men, don't allow your ego to get in the way. If you gotta go, it's okay. Go. Save your life. We losing men, women, and children to domestic violence. Think about it. Just because it has not hit your family, don't mean that it won't.
Amen.
Don't say that this is not happening. Because baby, it's happening. I always tell people this, and I'm not holding your show, Miss Ella, but a
No,
lot
it's
of
okay.
times in our community, we'll say, "Well, I'm not getting involved. She ain't gonna do nothing but go back to him." It's okay, but guess what happens? If that same couple that you decide not to report to get a welfare check, what if he go in or she go in and shoot and it ricochet and hits you? Don't you want to say something? So I say that to everybody. Stop worrying. We hear in our community, snitches get stitches. A bullet has no
Name on it.
name on it.
That's right.
A bullet can cost you your life. So
Yes.
won't you rather snitch and say, hey, can you at least come do a welfare check? And maybe they see something on one of them to go in and take that weapon, then it cost you and your family your life.
But what about these agencies? I think it takes more than just the police. We got to have all these agencies working hand in hand to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do to protect these women. Or do you see that the laws are changing? Are they the same? What's the hope of the laws changing to better support these women and men who are suffering from domestic violence?
So honestly, when it's time to vote, a lot of people, and I just keep it real. We vote, we worry about our president. We don't worry about our local officials.
Right.
So that's real important because they work for us. So when we have an issue, we're supposed to be able to go to our Senate. We can go to our representatives of our states and let them know, hey, can you explain this to me? Can you get me the answers? If it's something that you don't agree, rally up. We can rally up to go and do everything else. Let's rally up and get these laws tight so we can protect our people.
I like that. Well, I think that you should definitely stay in touch with us. And I want to extend an invitation to all of the people that are on your team, anyone that wants to come to the Ella Johnson show and share their story. But I want to show people something because I think that, you guys see this beautiful woman in front of us today. I want you guys to take a look at this. These are the pictures. And tell us what we're looking at here, Vernita, these pictures.
So I never paid attention to it until about 2 years ago when I was going through my photo album. And the top picture is when I was in different relationships that was abusive. And you'll see like a smirk, but you never really see a smile. When I begin to, the picture where I got my hair pulled back in the second row is where the first day that I went and my counselor that I had, my therapist I have now, when she said what she said to me, my whole smile changed.
Wow.
Because I actually opened up and began to talk about what was really bothering me in those top pictures.
Wow. But one thing I noticed though, Vernita, in all the pictures, you're smiling. Every
Yep.
single one of them.
Yep. And then when you get to the bottom, now you know I got teeth.
Right. Pretty teeth at that.
Yes. That's where I am now with my now husband and my world. Even in the middle.
Okay, let's pull it back.
Where you begin to see my teeth and all that. The first two is I'm coming out, really getting my therapist. The first one and then the last four, you could really see like a 360.
Totally different. Totally different. Yeah.
I care about me. I care about, my parents,
Yeah.
I took my life back.
Yes.
And so I smile.
I'm celebrating with you. I am celebrating because not only did you find your peace back, but you found a Boaz to help you for the rest of your life. Now I'm so glad because now I can see that you got that answer because you asked God, why me? Why me? And sometimes I think what we have to do, why not me? because you know what?
Right.
God uses all of us and uses every situation, because at the end of the day, it's all about leading people to him. We were created to worship him. And sometimes worship means a little sacrifice, and you made a sacrifice, but look at you today. You have a totally different smile. You haven't stopped smiling since you came into my studio tonight. And I was like, when you first came on, you were just kind of sitting there waiting on me. And I'm like, oh, you're there. And you've just been smiling ever since. This is a woman who has been through hell. But see, God gave you that smile. The world thought they could take it away. The enemy thought he could take it away, but he couldn't take it away. So I am proud of you. I am proud of your organization. Please let me know how I can help, how I can be of service when you have another event, if you need a donation, whatever, we would love to. But I want to always keep this door open for you and anyone on your team. And for anyone out there, if you have a domestic violence story and you'd like to be on the show, please hit me up, because you know what? We can't have enough stories, because the more we're talking, that means we're above ground. And we need more people above ground. But what we do need is for you to get out, make a plan to get out before it's too late, like it was for my cousin. My cousin didn't have a chance to make a plan to get out. It just happened all of a sudden, and boom, she's gone, you know. And that is why my show is dedicated to these types of subjects, because it's my way to make sure that no one has to go through what my cousin and so many of your family members have had to go through, you know. So I just, before we go, I want to know one thing, because I think this is a very key thing. What can people do to keep from getting in this? Because, you know, we've talked about making it through, but I want to kind of do some preventive maintenance. How do we go to not get there?
So one thing that we do is I often say we talk about the abuse, the bad, but let's start training our youth at a young age what a healthy relationship is.
Amen.
If we train them and we show them what a healthy relationship is, instead of them getting educated from the streets, you know, the key thing is, if I never seen a healthy relationship, I was never educated on it. What I see and what I do, I think is okay. So the key to preventing domestic violence is to train our youth at a young age what a healthy relationship is. And if you're older, date. It's okay to date. Like, don't rush into anything. Date.
See, I wish I would have heard that advice a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like you say, when they're younger, I think it should be taught in school, in these life skill classes. I think
they teach your children sex education, but they do not teach them what a healthy relationship is. So, you know, if you need someone to teach your children, reach out to me. I will definitely teach them what a healthy relationship is.
Well, that sounds like something your 501c3 can offer your local schools.
And that's what we're in the process
yes.
right now. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm so proud of you, dear. Is there anything you want to say before we get out of here? Because I'm just so full. I've just enjoyed meeting you and hearing your story. And I just feel I get emotional when I hear these stories, because it's almost like when somebody say that they want to die, I can relate to that. I don't know if there's a person, if you'll be honest, a lot of us have felt that at some point in our life. But I'm so glad that God kept you here for such a time as this. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
I just preached that last Wednesday, for such a time as this. But I will say to anyone, silence helps the violence. Speak up, develop a safety plan, and just know that you are valuable. No matter whether you're a woman or a man, you are valuable. You don't deserve it. Don't feel ashamed. Just get the help that you need.
All right. With that, we're going to get out of here. And I want to thank you guys all so much again for tuning into the Ella Johnson Show. We have another interesting story coming up next week, another domestic violence. And you don't want to miss this one, because she went through a whole lot more than just domestic violence. So I want you guys to tune into the Ella Johnson Show. Have a great weekend. You too as well, Vernita. Enjoy those grandbabies and your hubby. And thank you again for being a guest on the Ella Johnson Show. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Good night. Thanks for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show.